Imagine a woman, so wise, that her words silenced the fury of a king thirsting for revenge. So beautiful, that her presence made a warrior put down his sword. Who was this woman? Almost forgotten by the crowds, but remembered by God. This is the story of Abigail, the woman who faced death with wisdom, the woman who changed destiny with an attitude, the woman unforgettable. In the book of 1 Samuel, chapter 25, we are taken to one of the most dramatic and decisive moments in the life of King David, but not because of an army, but because of a woman who dared to stand between the sword of justice and the madness of pride. At the time, David was not yet king. He was on the run from the mad King Saul and living in the deserts with a group of faithful warriors. That's when he met a man called Nabal, a rich, arrogant man, and a fool. And his wife was Abigail. There are people who, when they come into your life, change everything. Some through pain, others through wisdom. Abigail wasn't just a wife. She was a messenger from heaven, sent to stop a massacre and transform history. But who was Nabal, the man who challenged David with contempt? And why did his wife have to act alone to prevent a tragedy? In the next block, you will understand the beginning of the conflict that almost changed the course of Israel, and how Abigail became the key to destiny. Nabal, the name said it all. Foolish, stupid, a man blinded by pride and deaf to wisdom. He owned large herds, fertile land, and a considerable fortune, but his soul was as dry as the desert where he lived. While Abigail was light, Nabal was darkness. While she built bridges, he dug chasms. At sheep shearing time, a time of celebration and generosity, David sent messengers to Nabal, asking for a simple gesture of gratitude. After all, his soldiers had protected Nabal's servants and goods in the fields. But Nabal rejected the request with contempt. He said, "Who is David? Who is the son of Jesse? I will not give my bread and my meat to strangers." 1 Samuel 25 verses 10 to 11. Those words were a direct insult, a challenge to the man God had chosen, an offense that ignited the warrior's anger and sealed his fate. David was furious. He said, "May God punish me severely if by tomorrow any man from the house of Nabal is alive." The blood was about to flow, and all because of a fool who didn't know who he was messing with. Pride smells of death. Nabal planted contempt and would reap destruction. But when chaos approaches, God raises up intercessors, people who hear the voice of heaven in the midst of madness. Abigail now knows the sword of David is on its way. She has just one chance and one act of courage to save her whole house. In the next block, the decisive moment, the woman who got off the donkey and faced her destiny head-on. While the men saddled horses and sharpened swords, a woman bent her knees. Abigail, the fool's wife, smelled death before it came, and she decided not to wait. She would ride straight to the sword, with her hands full of peace. Without telling Nabal, Abigail put together a generous offering. Bread, wine, meat, fruit. It's not a bribe. It's honor. It's not fear. It's intercession. She knows she's not just dealing with an angry man. She's dealing with one of God's chosen, someone who carries a divine promise and a heart that, if overcome by anger, can stray from its purpose. And then, she gets off the donkey. Abigail carries no sword. She doesn't hold up a shield, but she kneels. And with words that cut deeper than blades, she began to speak. Based on 1 Samuel 25 verses 23 to 31. Abigail, let the blame fall on me, my lord. Pay no attention to this evil man, Nabal. He is like his name, foolish. The Lord has established you for great things. Don't stain your history with unnecessary blood. When the Lord has fulfilled all his promises to you, you won't carry the weight of having shed blood for revenge. In that instant, destiny changed. One woman with wisdom and humility saved lives, and also the conscience of a king. Abigail didn't just prevent a massacre. She was God's instrument to preserve the royal lineage. Her speech was prophetic. She saw in David what many did not, a throne reserved in heaven. And at that moment, Heaven heard her, and hell retreated. David steps back. Tragedy is averted, but God's judgment still hangs over Nabal. In the next block, we'll see the shocking end of the one who defied God's anointed, and the beginning of a new chapter for the woman who overcame with wisdom. Nabal was at home, partying like a king, drunk, laughing, unaware that death was riding towards him. While Abigail saved his life, he mocked his own salvation. The next morning, Abigail speaks. She reveals everything. And then Nabal's heart stops. Not out of love, not out of repentance, but out of terror. God himself touched the man who mocked his anointed. Nabal didn't die by David's sword. He died by God's judgment. What men try to solve with blood, heaven solves with silence and time. Abigail trusted in God, and God did justice. And when David heard of Nabal's death, he didn't celebrate. He saw the hand of God. And he remembered the woman who had saved his soul from sin. So, he called her to be his wife. Abigail was more than a wife. She was a prophetess in action. A woman who discerned the times and chose to act. She didn't fight with force, but with wisdom. She didn't use shouting, she used intercession. And for that, her name echoes to this day as a symbol of silent courage. History has forgotten many kings, warriors, and prophets. But it has not forgotten Abigail, the woman who intercepted death and touched the heart of a king. How many times do we react with the sword when we should act wisely? How many situations could God solve if only we would stop and listen as Abigail did? Don't underestimate the power of a soul sensitive to God. It may be that, like Abigail, you too are on the path to saving a generation. The name Abigail means joy of the Father. But in history, she was more than that. She was discernment. She was a bridge between death and mercy. And even without an army, she won a conflict that many men could not. She faced David's sword. She faced Nabal's pride. She faced God's silence. And in each of those moments, you chose to trust. To trust that heaven still speaks. To trust that justice would come. To trust that her gesture would not be forgotten. Abigail's legacy challenges us to be wiser, to act with courage and, above all, to keep our faith in God even in the face of the greatest adversity. May we be like her, a woman who, in a moment of darkness, brought light to the world around her. Abigail will not be forgotten, and her example continues to inspire men and women to this day. She teaches us that you don't need a title, fame, a pulpit, or a crown to be an instrument of God's will. Sometimes all God needs is someone willing to listen and act. What do you think about Abigail's legacy? Leave your comment below and share this video with others who need to know this story of wisdom and courage. Subscribe to the channel for more Bible stories that will transform your view of faith and courage.